it kept kicking me out, kept spinning, not connecting. I was like, this is gonna be a good show.
It's gonna be, obviously it is, because that's usually what happens when we, when we get kicked out of things. Both spiritually,
It's gonna be a good show.
physically and spiritually. Oh, I love your hair. Now, see, you got the curls going all the way back, I see. You done jazzed it up. You jazzed it up.
Because that's what he said he wanted. So.
Uh-oh.
Wait, that's next week's show, right?
Next week's show, yes, guys.
Okay. How your man cover you? Okay, I just.
Oh, speaking of which, listen, guys, you do not want to miss next week, Wednesday. We're actually going to be on Facebook Live, and so we need this audience to trickle over to Facebook. I'm going to try to figure out in 1 week how to connect both of these things together, and I'm sure there's a way, because someone told me that you could go live on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. It's just, okay. I have to be able to sit down. Come on in, guys. Thank you guys for
come in.
Because, we were trying to get this live together. And so we are here. But we were talking about next week. Listen, it's going to be fire. Fire. We're going to have Mr. and Mrs. Jones. Hey!
Mrs. Jones. What's going on?
Hey, y'all don't want to miss that. Listen, we're going to be right here.
You sure enough don't.
Same time, listen, power is going to be in the house. And if you are married, listen, this could be for the singles too, but specifically if you are married and you are confused about the role that you play as a husband as far as how he covers his wife, you need to be right here, okay?
And for those who are joining, and for those who are not married yet, because, let's be real for a minute, you can't cover your wife if she's not your wife.
That's right.
You can't. We can say common law wives and all, but you can't cover your wife if she's not your wife. In the spiritual, but then you can't cover your wife if you marry somebody who's not supposed to be your wife. But anyway, we save that for next week. So anyway,
because
and your hair looking good, I'm loving the hair.
Yeah, I ended up getting it plaited. Yeah, so ended up getting that. I know it's either plaits or natural hair for me. One of the two. Those are the two things that you'll see me with. Yes, ma'am.
I love when you say plait, because up north we always say braided. So when you say plait.
Okay. So you guys say plait, braid. Okay.
Braided. Yeah. So I like it. It's just where we live at, the different things that people say, but I love it.
Hi.
I love it, though.
All right. So we got Highest of Seven Hills. He is on tonight.
Hey.
That is our guest speaker. Listen, we want to go ahead and get started before we bring him on. Once again, Reverend D and I are here every Wednesday. We will be hosting, bouncing back and forth from Facebook to Instagram. Womanly wisdom, that's a story in itself. Listen, tap in if you want the wisdom of God to flow. Ladies, make sure you tap in. We're going to be bringing, this platform is also going to be ministering to men as well, because they need a platform to, so that their voices can be heard too as well. And you're going to hear from one of those powerful men on next Wednesday. And again, we will be on Facebook Live. Latavian Gardner, Reverend D, Diane Jones on Facebook. So we'll pin that information in the comment section very soon. And so since our speaker is here, I'm going to go ahead and invite him in. Listen, go grab your sister, your cousin, your mom, anybody that's raising kids.
Anybody in the bathroom, anybody in the front room, side room, sitting on the porch, in the back porch, cooking chitlins, frying chitlin, babysitting kids, whatever. Because everybody need a little bit of something, especially if you're raising some kids, okay?
Yes,
because everybody, listen, I called people Nana when I was little who wasn't even connected to me, but that's that village. So we're gonna get that wisdom. So go back there and get Big Mama and her friends. We know it's Wednesday and it's Bible study, but they ain't really reading the Bible.
Come on.
They're trying to get some money for the building fund. They want to add that toilet on the back of the church.
Oh my God, listen, it is serious, okay? She said fried chitlin. I want y'all to catch that part. Please catch the fried chitlin part.
And it's the first of the month, so you know, a lot of people.
Yes, it is. Listen, it is about to go down.
Okay.
Listen, this is so amazing. That's why I love her so much. You guys see why. And it's going to be an amazing show. I am bringing Kewlyn Williams on so that he can enlighten us. Now, I got some good and bad news about this guest speaker, but I'm going to wait until he comes on, and then I'll share the bad news with y'all, okay? Hold on. Let me invite him in.
We waiting.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and invite him in so I can share the good news and the bad news.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello there.
Hello, Mr. Williams.
Hey, how we doing? How we doing?
Turn your camera some kind of way around. Okay.
There we go.
Back.
No. Oh, ain't no lean back.
Hey, I was just listening to that debate on the radio.
How you ladies doing today?
You should have saw me leaning back though.
But he just, you know, I thought it was going to have to lean back for a minute.
Listen, hey, I was sharing with the audience, Kewlyn, that I got some good news and some bad news. Now, which one you want to hear first?
Just give it to us.
So the good news is
we get the good news.
That's my sister. That's my sister, man. That's the good news.
You frozen.
Oh, me?
Oh, you was for a minute.
Oh, I can't be frozen when I say this. I need this to come through live and clear.
It came through loud and clear.
Okay, I'm loud and clear because I need this to register because my baby sister on here and she done already got started for me.
Lord.
So Reverend D, the bad news is he went to Florida A&M in Tallahassee. Could you believe that?
Well, I'm a New Yorker, so none of that. I don't have any opinions on anything outside of New York.
What was
so,
he?
You know.
Listen, what was he thinking? He should have went to Bethune-Cookman College. Wildcats in Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay.
That's all
I'm saying.
Right there in Daytona.
That's all I'm saying.
The highest of 7, okay?
Listen here, I'm a northerner, so I don't know.
That's
if it ain't with the New York, I don't know.
New York loves Tallahassee too.
No.
Okay, be right on that one.
Listen, we're not giving no shout outs to Tallahassee on here. We're not even doing that on this platform. It's a no.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So that's the brother-in-law.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute,
okay.
Brina. Hold on. You can't say go Wildcats, go Rattlers. You gotta say on one side Sabrina Gardner. Sabrina Gardner. One side only.
Uh-oh. It says, can you stop rocking back and forth?
Yes, yes.
That's the Aries in her, because it says Aries for real. Okay.
Hey,
I'm not even mad with you, sis.
Reverend D, that's my baby sister who's doing all of that, by the way.
That baby sister, the baby sisters always do things different.
They run. You know they really in charge.
The rules don't work for them.
Of the family, really.
The rules never work for them. The same rules, but it never works for them. So yes, Aries, I'm not even mad at you, little sister.
And I'm gonna leave that right there. No. Okay. Next. Listen, Kewlyn, how are you doing? How are you
it's all
doing?
love. It's a beautiful day down here in South Florida. Not sure if you all are still getting snow up there in New York, but it's definitely beautiful.
Oh no, excuse me. Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm in Florida. Okay, let me give you my swag for a minute. I'm in Florida. I'm out here by St. Petersburg. Okay, I'm here. So no, it's hot over here.
Listen, don't be hating on Houston. First of all, it's 82 degrees here. Okay.
Girl, listen here. You don't see my forehead sweating. I'm like, whoop, this right here.
Listen, Kewlyn, I'll be so happy when it's 82 degrees. I don't know how to act. You hear me?
Oh Lord. Yeah.
If the sun was out today, I didn't know how to act. I put my head out the door just to get the sun to shine in my face.
Mm-hmm.
That's
It hasn't been.
it was.
You haven't had good weather since. You haven't had good weather since at all.
No, it's been our winter season. It's I could never get used to the winter season at all. I'm a Floridian 100%, so it's a no for me.
So I'm gonna go to the beach tomorrow just for you, all right? I just want to give you some. Ain't no fun unless the homies get some. So
don't do it. Listen, Kewlyn, thank you so much. I know that you are very busy, and I respect your time. Thank you for joining us here on It's Not That Hard to Talk About. And I just want you to share with the audience who you are, what it is that you do, and just give us a little bit of insight as far as how important it is for anybody to advocate for the children.
Okay. So as it's already been announced, I am Kewlyn Williams, and I did attend Florida A&M University, which is where I got my bachelor's degree in criminology and sociology. And through that, it's led me through a lot of different paths. And so what ended up occurring through this is when I graduated, I couldn't really find something to do. So I ended up gravitating to just getting a job, and found a job, and ended up at a group home where I figured, oh, something's happening here. Yeah. So once I realized that there's something happening here, I said, wait, there's obviously more I can do here. So once I realized that, I said, well, these children, they're all having some major issues. Yeah. Some of which ended up happening right before my eyes and didn't even realize it. But I think the one thing that actually started with me was the whole earthquake with Haiti. Wow. I mean, it was a thing, and seeing how many kids actually came to South Florida through that really changed and made me want to do something from another side of it. So I decided to take it to the legal portion of it, which is how we basically get a lot of the advocating done. Now, does that mean that's the only way to do this? No, it's not. There are other ways that we can do this. It obviously can start before we actually get to the court stuff, and I would actually prefer it to be that way. Yeah. If there's more people advocating, that would simply mean that I don't have a job in that field, and that's great. That means children are safe. Yes. And that's what we want at the end of the day, right? Yes. I've been doing this now for about 10 years. A little bit over 10 years. I currently work with the Guardian Ad Litem program here in Palm Beach County, and it is a rewarding experience. You know, yes, it's work, and it is true that it's a lot of work. However, you will be fed when you're doing this and you're doing it correctly, okay? Yes. There's some really great experiences I've had. There's some things that I had to bring home with me that I didn't understand at times. There have been some children that I have seen, actually, that's the youngest I've ever had, by the way, fresh out of the hospital. And that was tough. That we have is right up until they age out. But even with that, there are a lot of those kids still, you know, remain into the system if they can't function on their own still. So, you know, each state has different, you know, laws and priorities and how they choose to deal with those kind of subjects. But for the most part, it's pretty consistent with those children if they are wanting to remain in care and how they're going to be reintroduced, so to speak, as an adult to live on their own. This is definitely something that I didn't think I would be doing this long. But found a way to love it. And I think it was also an added bonus because I also work with a lot of volunteers. These people are free. They give their time freely. And quite frankly, I don't really know how they do it, but they're doing it, and we love them for it. It is not your typical, you know, volunteer job where you just go pick up some babies and play around with them and, you know, give them back. No, there's work that needs to be done with these babies. You know, they're having some really hard conversations with parents and with relatives and people of the community, you know. I've had the pleasure of working with some city council people, some commissioners.
That's good.
There's some pretty heavy people that are involved with the child care system. And I'm sure a lot of people may not know or, may want to be involved. And it's as simple as reaching out to your local agencies and figuring out how it is you can help if you so choose to want to help. Now, advocating may not be for you to per se take cases or children. You may feel like you can add by donating some funds or some clothes or furniture or anything of that nature. That is also just as much, because some of these kids, again, when they age out, they need furniture, they need a house, they get a house, they have nothing to put in there. So who's paying for that?
Right.
So as always, any little thing can help. It's just a matter of you deciding how much you want to do and what you can do. Okay. Right. Again, there's a lot of ways if you want to come in and do the exact work and try to be a volunteer and help a child through the process, then that would be great too, because they're always looking for people through the Guardian Ad Litem program, or even your local CASA areas. I don't know what areas some folks.
Costco's, yeah.
So CASA, you might want to look them up, because it's pretty much the same name here as just different names in other states. There is some training involved that you all would be getting, obviously, in order to do this, because again, you're going to be around people's children, and you need to know exactly what to do and how and what that looks like. Okay.
Yes.
Before we actually send you into other people's homes.
Oh, that's good.
So there's a ton of people that are actually involved in this whole system.
Yeah.
More than you would care to really even know, but for the most part, each child is going to have a case manager, provided to them from the state, and that
that's good.
That person is going to follow the child and even the parents and try to help them, quote unquote, remedy whatever the reason is that those children or child had been taken away from parents. And if it's so decided that those children or child cannot go back home and be with their parents, then there's other options as well for that. But that's another struggle of the system as well, getting those kids into quote unquote permanent homes.
Right.
Being a foster parent, that's a thing. They're always looking for those types of people. And one of the main things that I can always see at this point is the things that are actually missing, which are Black men.
Yeah.
Coming into.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, Black men are definitely needed in a lot of.
You mean as workers or as foster parents, or
as
both?
Workers, foster parents, all around. I mean, the majority of the people that I typically deal with, they're just not like us. So it's like there's a learning curve here when we're talking about what we're doing. They may not understand some of the cultural things that are happening here, and may view it in a different light. Yeah. So the more people that we can get signed up in that area would definitely be helpful.
Why do you think that people, if using Black men for an example, why do you think we don't have as many Black men working in that particular area?
Truthfully, I typically struggle with that, but a lot of it might be time, money, and their efforts that, whether or not they have the time to actually donate and actually spend we're not talking about an hour here. We're talking, we're at least talking 10 hours a month, which again, it's not that bad, but some children may require more. There's some teen boys that I've seen come through, and if they might need help with football, and they might transfer from football to
male mentorship.
And then let's not forget the school meetings that are going on. It's as though some of these people end up like an uncle or an aunt to these children.
Exactly.
And they're right along with them and trying to drag the parent along as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's heavy lifting, but it is worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is.
it definitely is. It definitely is. You know, listen to you. I'm familiar with this because I worked with juveniles for years in the correctional setting, you know, guys and the girls, and to see the whole setup. And when you talked about them being reintroduced back into society, you know, after they had been with us maybe 4 years, whatever the case may be, when you try to reintroduce them, a lot of times it is where the parents are need all of the counseling. You know, they need a lot of counseling to help them, because when a kid goes away, he or she is stuck at that stage of whatever they left, and then when they get to the parents, a lot of times the parents are still in that same space.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know my husband created programs, whereas we had kids in programs for like 6 weeks. And so after they graduated, before that, say like the 4th week, I started to speak with the parents. So this way we could talk about some of the things that needed to be done and how you get them back into the household. Because like you said, you know, you have some people who will follow the kids, you know, the advocates, but in small settings, you know, we weren't able to do that stuff. So it's important what you talk about, especially with the Garden of Latavian. They have that out here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I thought about joining that at one time just to be a volunteer, you know, because I know if I got into it and really wanted to do that work, there was some changes because I get really attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so deep because the generation now, you know, just feels like they know so much.
Yeah.
You have a lot of parents who have just disconnected because of their emotional stuff. And then when you talk about the men, a lot of times the men that I've noticed that work, you know, there was no emotions attached, which was great.
Right.
You know, the women were the ones that were attached to the kids, and oh, you know, this is going on. So it's a whole lot that goes along with it. I watched the process of them going in, you know, dealing with the judges and the lawyers, and then it's just like, wow, this is really. And I was also a foster parent for like 4 years with girls in New York. Man, let me tell you something. It was hard because when the thing that I realized is when the foster girls were coming, they only brought like a piece of paper and a bag of medications.
Wow. Wow.
So you don't have any idea what's happening. And living in a small town, everybody's related to everybody.
Right.
You know, so you can't have any values with this kid because here goes the cousin who is so much that I realize that so I take my hat off to you for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Right.
Yeah.
I really do.
I see that you put the hotline number. Yes, that is a very real thing. So if any
Oh,
of you
yeah.
ever think that someone is being abused, abandoned, or you suspect some neglect, please, by any means, call that hotline number. And it's so great now here in Florida.
Yeah.
That you don't even have to do the hotline by calling. You can get on the website and just fill it out. So you don't even have to wait. So
what's that website, Kewlyn?
It's just DCF.org.
Okay.
I'll send the link as soon as I can pull it up.
We're going to have this again, Latavia. You know why? Because my husband does this work. And to hear what Kevin is saying, my husband is right in the midst of it with the judges and the lawyers and the kids and stuff. And so it's just like, you know. But Kelvin, I wanted to ask you, what do you consider to be abuse? What is abuse now? Because before we looked at abuse as somebody getting whipped.
Right.
What is it? What does it fall under now?
Well, that's the misconception. Being beaten, being whipped is really not in the language. Actually, they're looking at the marks. That's what turns into the abuse, the physical abuse. So like, you know, you can spank a child. That's actually been stated. However, you don't want those marks and then the faces and things of that nature. That's when you're turning up and you're going to get these kids removed out of your care. Also, you know, do you have a shelter? A lot of times they typically, especially now, are trying to remove children for just being poor and homeless. There's a whole thing for that, but you have to be able to put them in a place where there's shelter at the very least. So are you going to a homeless shelter, or is that available for you? Have you figured that out? Even being in some of these domestic violence relationships, you know, are you constantly staying in that relationship?
Break that down, Kewlyn. Break that down.
There's a place for you to go. There's all of these domestic violence shelters, and it is anonymous. They are not letting anybody in there. I mean, even for us, I have orders to go see people and lay eyes, and it's a must.
Yes.
I cannot step foot on that facility, okay? I can't even know where that person is.
Exactly.
You should.
So
Exactly.
that's also a very real thing. But one of the hardest things is also sex abuse with these children. I mean, that's something. And speaking of that, I mean, when you start going a little bit higher up in age, we're talking now trafficking with some of these kids. You know, it's very real down here in Broward County and Palm Beach. So those are things that we also need to be looking at with some of these children. So there's a myriad of ways that we can take children in, and the types of petitions I've seen, substance exposed little babies, you know, parents that are, you know, on drugs, and then they're, you know, as soon as the baby comes out, already has drugs in them and testing positive.
Right.
You know, cocaine, marijuana, you name it, it's there. So that's all considered abuse. You know, we need to get these parents help. So that's initially what we want to do with some of this. And again,
you mentioned staying in an abusive relationship. So if the parents are exposing the children to that, that's also considered some form of abuse. See, I didn't know that.
There are deaths associated with that. A parent can be holding a baby, and as simple as an argument with a person reaching out, trying to grab someone, not trying to grab the baby, but that baby falls out of a hand and hits their head on a concrete. I mean, now we're talking worst case scenario, skull fractures. You know, anything else after that, I mean, I wouldn't want to be around in that setting. You know, that's not good.
So the mother will be charged for that?
They will get charged, yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. And I think that the viewers need to be able to hear that, because sometimes people stay for the relationship so that, you know, they're afraid to leave. Some of them are afraid to leave. Some people stay because they feel like they can't raise children by themselves. But in cases like that, if you could be charged for being or staying in an abusive relationship, that's certainly something that, you know, parents need to consider. I mean, so,
yeah, that's something that we typically have, and it's so much so that there's federal dollars actually attached to it. I mean, so much that there's so much help for those specific cases that they're given advocates that have nothing to do with what we're doing, but they're giving these people because they don't want anything to happen to these little kids.
Exactly. So there's a place where a woman could run to with her child, remain anonymous, and the baby's father, who's being abusive, won't know she's there.
Exactly.
Is that through the website, Kewlyn?
I'm sure they can figure it out through that same DCF website. Or you can just simply look up domestic violence shelters, and they may give you some hotline numbers that you can actually contact. I'm sure if you contact the Florida Abuse Hotline too, then those guys are trained to probably give you information as well. I've called them. They will ask you 1,000 questions. Good. For the most part, they will direct you where you need to go. So if you're wanting to get out, they'll tell you exactly where to go, and who's allowed to go. So they don't run kids away. They will take the children too.
That's good.
Some instances, those families, they end up, I had one lady that stayed there for 6 months, and she was able to get on her feet and get a job. And
that's good. I'm happy to hear that.
To get some housing. So she ended up doing very well. The father, she stayed there the entire time until the father was actually in jail. And
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
You know, what I've seen is when you say CASA, because I'm familiar with that here, and working in housing for housing before I retired, there were women who would come in and they had like first preference for apartments and stuff. Yeah. But a lot of women that went in to CASA was there because they lied about a lot of stuff so they can get an apartment. And I witnessed a couple of people that once they got the apartment, they moved their boyfriend in to the apartment, and that's something that they weren't supposed to do, but they had a plan. And then the women who really were in those battling situations really struggled. You know, I watched them struggle to get apartments and to keep it going. And you know, some people play the system, some people don't, and so it's so hard, because I've gone and visited those hideaway shelters, domestic you know, and when I walked in it to visit somebody one day with a pastor, to see the look on these women's faces, to be normal for a moment, or their children to be normal for a moment, not to be able to be normal and to go out because they're so mentally abused. It was sad because they really wanted better. And like you say, a lot of them stay in relationships because the fear of raising children on their own.
Yeah.
A lot of them want to stay in a relationship because they think they can change what's taking place. A lot of them take it whereas, I thought this, or I thought that, and it's just a mindset.
Right.
So how do you, Kewlyn, in your field, how do you reintroduce those women? Are there classes that they need to take continuously?
Yeah. I mean, initially we give them an entire plan, just like any other person.
Okay.
And so typically dealing with those kind of domestic violence cases, we try to get them in some group classes so that they can see women just like them, and they can talk about their stories as well. We also introduce them to some psychotherapies that they may need as well.
That's good.
And they also, again, a big piece of it is housing, because a lot of them tend to stay in places without the housing. They don't have the funds to do so. So we get them involved with Section 8 housing or whatever else it is that they need. And sometimes they just need a job, and if they get the job long enough, then they're gone. I must reiterate though, like this whole thing is it takes the entire community to try to help out these people.
It does. It does.
Is when we wait too late, like I was just doing a case today that involved guns, and you have people that you're running around there, your boyfriend's carrying guns, or before they come around the house and now they're shooting up out the houses, and without you realizing, now your child is no longer with you.
Wow.
Out with a stranger, because they're not going to put that child in that home with, even if grandma's there or the aunts are there. They don't want, they say get them away because there's some safety concerns.
It's unhealthy, right?
Yeah. So we have.
I'm sorry. So when these families, say these women come out of CASA and they want to link back up again with the person that they was with, what do you ever have couples that get back together?
It has happened.
And
what ends up happening is there's usually some triggers there. So generally there's rules to keep up with these houses, and people do come by and check. Even once we close these cases, there's usually the department usually comes by. There's usually a
that's good.
person that checks to say, well, you're not really keeping up with this part of the contract. You got somebody here that shouldn't be here. So we're either gonna revoke your status or get rid of this person.
So they have to be held accountable throughout the whole program for whatever. And so when they go into CASA, do they lose all connection to, or they're supposedly with their family members?
No, they're allowed to still talk to family members. I mean, I think the issue is making sure that you're removing everyone that's dangerous around the child, and that you're protective, that you have protective capacities is basically what we're looking for.
That's good. So, Kewlyn, I heard you say, and everybody that's on, feel free to leave any questions that you may have too as well. Thank you guys for logging on too as well. I heard you say that, you're reiterating that it's a community thing. Everybody has to get involved. Now, as an educator, I've been in the education field for like 20 years now. What are some signs now? Because kids are holding things in. There is no physical abuse. They're not showing anything. And it's kind of difficult to see what those signs are. So what should me or anybody that's looking as an educator or a counselor, what signs should we be looking for specifically in middle and high school? Because I think sometimes it's obvious in elementary school, but middle and high, what do you look for? What should I look for?
So one of the things that really got me was COVID. It was a game changer. Like what ended up happening there was it forced everything to stop and shift. So there were a lot of children that we didn't see.
Oh.
And so when you're not seeing people, what ends up happening is you don't know what's going on with them. You can't tell if they're safe. We weren't getting cases the same. We were probably down, I think, 250 children for that year, for the initial year. But then the following year, it actually dropped even more.
Wow.
And one of the things that ended up happening was school affected that. And part of the reason for that is no one was going. So when we can't see children, of all ages,
You
we
can't
tell
if they're being
is wrong with
abused.
them. Right. So a lot of times it's as simple as we need to lay eyes on these kids to make sure that they're okay. Some of them go in, they'll ask the teacher, for food because they haven't eaten. So that's a big thing for a lot of these teens.
I get a lot of that.
Right. And a lot of times what we'll also get is, they'll be sleepy a lot, sleep through their day. And so part of that can be that they're up all night having to watch their other siblings for whatever the reason.
I get that too.
Where mom is at. That's actually, it's a tough thing because they're the ones that are taking care of they're the parent.
Right.
So,
yeah, one kid did just mention that to me today. And she said, well, I don't like being home. And I said, well, why don't you like being home? And she said, because I got to watch my younger sisters and brothers. And I'm like, yeah.
There's
Okay,
probably
so
something happening there. There's usually, most schools now also have school resource officers. So in theory, what can happen is their advisors can probably talk to them about it and get them hooked up and figure out if there's more that's necessary there. So that might be one person that we can actually reach out to at the school to just make sure that kid has somebody that they can talk to as well. At some point, that kid will talk, and then when he or she does, just be there to listen, and then remind them that you're there to also help them. So whatever they tell you, you don't want to always let them, you need to be honest with them so they understand as well that you two have a job to do, that we all have to report things because we all are supposed to report any abuse for kids. I don't think many of us know that.
That was my
next
question.
Factor.
Right.
Okay, really quick, the trust factor. When you do have a teen that comes in and they talk to you about certain things and you're saying in your own mind, as because you have to be a mandated reporter, what this kid is going through some stuff. So when you tell that to an authority figure, doesn't it bring a lot of conflict, mistrust? It breaks the relationship with you and that team.
It gets tough, but what we have to do is make sure that we're honest with the kid and we're telling them what we need to do as well. A lot of times they can accept that. I mean, you have to build that relationship from the beginning.
Right.
You can't just start being the kid's, protector all of a sudden and not, tell them about what you're actually looking to do here.
Option.
If a kid's being abused, you have to let them know like it's not okay. And we have to set an example because they don't have one.
Right.
So if they don't see it in us, then who are they going to see it in?
Yeah, like one kid I had, they kept saying, I'm going to kill myself. No, I'm just playing. Oh, no, I'm going to kill myself. No, I'm just playing. I say, listen, if you say that one more time, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call everybody into this room. And no, I'm okay. Yeah, they play now. See, this generation, that's how you know that they're being abused or something is going on at home, because they'll try to turn it into a joke and laugh about it. And you have to read between the lines. And that's a good question, Reverend D, because it's a fine line between trying to be there for them, as an advocate, and then saying, I got to report this at the end of the day. And, not being afraid that they're going to, lose trust or lose faith in you as a result of calling, this number or bringing it to the attention of the counselors and oh my God, let alone their parents.
Right. That is a conversation I have almost every day with volunteers.
Yeah.
They do not want to lose trust with the kid, but I always have to remind them that this kid needs you to actually, be there for him to stop whatever's going on. And if sometimes that means we're going to be that bad guy, then that's what it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Children can forgive. They really can.
Yeah.
People's lifestyles will look abusive to us if we live a certain lifestyle, So what I may do in my house and how I raise my children, the neighbor may not do that.
Yeah.
We look at it as abuse, but this is their normal lifestyle, how they live. How do you separate that, without going into the home and being opinionated with certain things, because generational ways that people live, it shows today in our children, and so, at grandma's house, there may be 16 grandkids, and everybody's sleeping all over.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody didn't get the extra stuff to eat, so they come to school.
That's a good question.
So, but there's really no abuse going on in the household. This is just how they've been raised and how they're living. So how do you separate
so
that?
basically what we're talking about now is basic needs, you know, which is something that's the main thing that we have to focus on. So what are the basic needs here for everybody? You know, food, clothing, shelter, right? So if we have those three things, then we need to kind of lower the bar, because that's where we're pretty much at. You know, what that looks like for each family is a little different. Okay. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So like
that's good. That's
so like
good.
There's, you know, it's a true thing. So like, I have a lot of Guatemalans that are coming in. So what does that look like when I go visit them in their community?
Right.
You know,
right.
I have
a lot of them
Haitians
in one house
that we get in. Again, what does that look like when I go visit them?
Listen, it's like 30 of them. It's like 30 of them.
So again, we have to just make sure that they're living according to the standard within their own community, for one. You know, because each home is going to be pretty much the same in that area. If you go into that one home, you're more than likely going to find the same thing in each of those homes. So then what ends up happening, which it happened in Broward, they end up pulling the same children out of the same area code, or zip code, I should say. And it's this one area that always gets children pulled. All the kids, 65% of the children in Broward came from one zip code.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So what's the standard? What's the standard? You said standard.
Yeah.
You lower the standards.
So basically,
so how does
some
that
of
work?
us think that, you know, what a home is considered, you know, let's say junky, you know, we would look at that a certain way. And to them, it's just like, there's just some stuff around the house.
Yeah.
You know, that's just one thing. You know, when you look in those houses, well, you need to take a deeper dive into it. Like, is there mold? Are we seeing food that's molded? Things of that nature. Let's not get wrapped up into the clothing and stuff. You know, now are we talking hoarding? Now, if that's what we're talking, then that's another story.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that needs to be called in. Okay. But we're definitely looking for mold. We're definitely looking for, you know, whether or not they have a place to sleep and what that looks like, and that that there's no safety concerns. You want to get rid of all the environmental hazards that are in that spot where all the children are. Okay, we can't have that.
Yes. This is some amazing information. We are going to post this recording and definitely upload it to our YouTube page and Facebook as well. And we just appreciate you coming by and sharing this information with everybody. Don't look at the number, because people view. I saw one view at 10,000. I saw 10,000 views on this, but people tune in and you look at the number and see 2, 3, 4, but then you see 5,000 views, which is amazing, because that's our goal here, is to bring on people who can, you know, shed light to our communities. Our children need advocates. We need to point out abuse. We need to be aware of the signs. Everything that you're mentioning now, we all need to serve as advocates as best as we possibly can. It's good to know. Thank you for sharing with us that, you know, abuse comes in so many different forms. I learned something tonight that, oh my God, I didn't know if a woman stayed in an abusive relationship that, you know, she could possibly go to jail if her baby falls out of her hand. You know, this is why we have to shed light on this kind of information, because people just look at abuse as in physical or mental or emotional or whatever, but it could be on so many different levels, and you work with these people, you know, hands-on.
Right.
And so I'm grateful for your time. You know, is there anything else before we close this out? Is there anything else that you think the audience needs to know in terms of how important it is for the community, for people, for educators, for pastors, for ministers, for sisters and brothers and cousins and Ray Ray and Shay Shay and them, and you know what I mean?
Shaniqua and Rakim.
Rakim and all them. You know, Rakim and all them. But them to know. You know what I'm saying? Like, what else? Like,
so let's just remember,
say?
If we're not there for the children, then that means somebody else is. So who was that? Who was that?
See? That was powerful right there.
So if we're not there, who is it?
That's powerful.
Okay.
Now, that's a powerful statement to leave, and I'm surprised since you went to FAMU that you were able to come up with such a statement that was so powerful. Usually, it comes from a Wildcat's mouth, but we just thank you for that powerful statement.
We can smell
I'm staying out of that.
Well, we know you wish. We know y'all
Wildcats,
very,
let
very
me
wishful.
know. All my Wildcats that will see this, y'all know what's up. Wildcats, let's go. Listen, Reverend D, was he amazing or what?
That website. It's actually DCFMyFamilies.com.
What is it?
MyFamilies.com.
Oh, My Families. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to put that in the myfamilies.com.
Yes.
And what's this for again?
That's for anything through DCF that you want to find, as far as like even with food stamps, you can go through that location as well. Obviously, you're gonna have to find the right check down boxes for that. For domestic violence shelters, somebody through that site can also direct you to the right location. Or if you want to do an abuse report, you can also do it on that website as well.
Okay.
Whatever you're
now,
looking
is this
to.
Florida?
This
is
for
this
Florida.
For Florida, or is it universal?
This is for Florida, but the hotline number, I'm sure, is universal, okay? The actual 1-800-96 abuse line is universal.
Okay.
Okay?
Listen, thank you so much, Reverend Diane. Reverend D.
Yes, ma'am.
He was all right, right? He was all right.
Oh, Lord.
Listen here. That's your family. And I know your sister's on here somewhere. I can't see her. So, you know, it's all good. Whatever she say, hey, he the bomb. Okay.
Okay. So before we head out, let's go ahead and speak a blessing over his life. Listen, thank you once again, Kewlyn. You know I appreciate you so very much. You are amazing. Thank you for being amazing on this show and shedding us with so many light as it relates to child advocacy. Okay, Reverend D, take us away.
Listen here. So gracious and Heavenly Father God, we thank you. We honor you. We trust you, God, for what you're doing and who you're doing it through, and God, why you're doing it. God, I ask right now that you would just bless him from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, Father. That whatever household he walks into, whatever child he comes into, whatever family he comes in, Father, that the anointing that you have on his life will come first, Father, and join together with all the education that he has. So, Father, we thank you. We trust you. And all these things we say in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Bye, Kewlyn.
Bye.
Bye, Freedom. Bye, guys. Have an amazing day, everyone.
Yes.
See y'all next Wednesday. You don't want to miss Reverend D.
You don't want to miss this right here. It's going to change your whole lifestyle.
Listen, you don't want to miss this. We're going to be on Facebook, though. We're going to be on Facebook Live next Wednesday. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones going to be in the house, y'all. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Can't see you. Oh. Come on.